Hello, and welcome to Co-Ed for Kids to Goes Live. My name is Kelly Godell, and I'm the Regional Coordinator for Prevention Services at Co-Ed, Early Care and Education Division. Co-Ed is the child care and resource agency for 31 counties in eastern Ohio. This broadcast is brought to you today in partnership with the Ohio Children's Trust Fund and the Eastern Ohio Prevention Council, who provide child abuse and neglect prevention services in Belmont, Carroll, Coshocton, Guernsey, Harrison, Jefferson, Monroe, Muskingum, Noble, and Tuscarawas counties. Thank you for joining us today. We are live and on site in Marietta at our Co-Ed offices, and today my guest is Angie Schmidl, who is a colleague who will be talking to us a little bit today about some practical tips for parents when they're dealing with holiday stressors. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Angie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you here today, and we can get right into our topic then.
Okay, well, my name is Angie Schmidl, and I've been with Co-Ed for Kids for 3 years. I have served as the infant toddler specialist, the preschool specialist, and currently the Step Up to Quality coordinator. My background is in education, so I have my bachelor's in education. Prior to being here, I was with Head Start and Early Head Start in Washington, Morgan Community Action as the disabilities manager. I am a certified Ohio approved trainer, PITC certified, which is Program for Infant and Toddler Care, as well as a 0 to 3 certified trainer in critical competencies. So that's what brings me here today.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that sounds like a lot of experience dealing with kiddos, all different ages, kind of running that preschool. And so, as I said a little bit, we're going to talk about the holiday season, or anytime that there's a special event or something going on in life, or even sometimes just daily life, that there are stressors that we have that affect how we parent, that affect how we interact, not only with our kids but with everybody else that could be in our circle of influence. And so Angie and I wanted to have some conversation about what are some things that we can do to really help parents with young kids kind of handle this in a better and more positive way. So that's what we'll be talking about. We're going to jump right in and just kind of talk about stress.
Okay, the S word that no one wants to talk about or deal with, but we're going to deal with it. The holiday season is intended for family and excitement and fun, and it's very busy and very hectic at the same time. So for parents, it becomes very, very stressful, and it also can become very stressful for children. As a parent myself and the other parents that are out there watching this, it's December, so pretty much the whole month the routine is a little messed up. It's not normal, and we're planning and we're preparing and we're cleaning and we're making a menu and we're cooking and we're shopping and we're wrapping packages, and then soon the kids are going to be off school and home with parents.
And I think in addition to that, all the preparing and those type of things, there's a lot more activities. We're taking our kids to perhaps concerts. We're taking them to Christmas plays, or we're taking them, or we're going out in the community more to see that. So all of that really kind of just adds on to perhaps the stressors that are taking place in the house in preparation for a holiday. And again, as I said, this could really be any special event, or this could be daily life. When you see a change in your routine, that for whatever exciting reason it could be.
Absolutely. And it isn't any different for adults than it is for children. We're all comfortable with our routine. We like our own routine and we find comfort in that. So do children. So we have to remember that as parents when we're planning and we know that all of this excitement is going to take place. We want to have that good time with family and friends, and we want to celebrate, and we want the children to have a good time. But depending on their age and development level, it's a little more challenging, and you have to plan ahead. So that's the number one thing that I want to suggest to parents to do, is to plan ahead for your child. So for example, the routine is all messed up, as we've already said, but keeping as close to your scheduled routine as possible is very beneficial for the children and also for the parents. For example, eating, sleeping, napping, those types of routines, we want to stay as close and as true to those time frames that they normally experience as we can. Infants need a lot of sleep. So if you're planning on going out shopping and doing a fun-filled event with your family, you're going to need to plan that this infant is going to need a lot of sleep time. And they also eat a lot. So they're going to wake up often, they're going to need fed more often than, say, a 2-year-old or a 3, 4, or 5-year-old who's a little bit more independent and can let you know, hey, I'm starting to get hungry, I need to go to the restroom. Whereas an infant, you need to be 24/7, they are dependent on you 100% of the time. So keeping that routine is imperative, I think, as the number one thing to do.
So that may mean rearranging the schedule that you would like to have in order to accommodate perhaps, nap time at 10 a.m. and knowing that nap time is going to last, so we're not scheduling anything until that nap time is over. So I think it's very just kind of practical tips like that where it's hard to not get excited or not get drawn into some things, but to keep that idea of routine and timing. Especially, I think, one thing that even with the older toddlers, their routine is maybe very different than an infant's, and they also want to be involved.
Absolutely. And especially 2 and 3-year-olds, they're hitting that developmental stage of wanting to assert their independence. And they're also peaking.
Love that.
Yes, we do love that. But they're also peaking at that temper tantrum level, at that 2 and 3-year-old age frame. So when you're planning these daily events, take that into consideration that if your son, who's 2.5 years old, is used to having breakfast at 8 o'clock out of the blue bowl, and you didn't have time and the blue bowl's dirty and you give him the red bowl, he's going to have a meltdown. So plan ahead. If you know he needs that blue bowl at 8 o'clock, go ahead and have that blue bowl ready. It's just those little practical things to save those stressors. The less stress that we put on the children, the less stress we're going to have to deal with ourselves as well.
We talk about just high levels of expectations too. So I think also another technique might be also to just kind of reflect on how your child has interacted or responded to these activities in the past. So if you have had them out at, say, a chorus concert or something, maybe for your other children, and sitting in the chairs is probably a struggle, and you might know that going in.
Right, exactly.
From last year.
Yes.
So.
And attention span varies throughout with the age of the child. So you can't expect a toddler to sit for an hour quietly and watch this choral program or this play. The attention span is small. It's just a few minutes long, and they're going to need something else to occupy them. So if that is what you're planning that day, take something, take a toy for them, take something that they can do quietly in that seat so they're not disrupting everyone else, but so that they also can remain somewhat engaged. Young people need to move, so we can't expect them to sit quietly for that length of time. And I think another thing too is that we need to give them a heads up of what our schedule is going to be. We all like to know what's happening in our day. Parents like to know when they get up in the morning what's on their agenda for the day. Children like that as well. So older children can do fine with a written schedule, children that can read. Our preschool children cannot read. Our toddlers cannot read. So a picture schedule is something that's really good. You can cut out pictures of a magazine. We're doing this ahead of time. We're planning ahead. We're not doing this the morning of.
Because that would be stressful.
It would be stressful for everyone.
That would be very
involved.
stressful
Yes,
planning it just that morning, like, I think
Yes.
we're going to have a picture schedule
Yes,
today.
keeping in mind we're planning ahead. A picture schedule. So they can read pictures, they can look at a picture and know that that's a familiar place. We're going to go to McDonald's for breakfast. So there's a picture of McDonald's. Maybe not the healthiest choice, but that might be on your schedule for the day. And then after that, you may have a picture of a department store. Then we're going to go shopping. Then we're going to go visit grandma. And there's a picture of grandma. So that they have that picture schedule and they can see what's coming next. Transition times are really important for young children. They need to know what's coming next because they do have that short attention span and they're curious. So giving them a heads up is important. And I want to mention also, we're talking about different age groups here. So when you think of infants and toddlers, the whole stranger comes into play. Being afraid of strangers. So that's around that 8-month to 12-month-old time period. And if you're having family coming in from out of town and you're hosting, or you're going to a big event at your sister's house and the whole family's going to be there, and grandma's coming and the aunts and uncles and everyone's coming and we can't wait to see them, we're so excited, and they can't wait to get their hands on this new little baby, and they've maybe only seen the child one time and that was when they were first born, the infant is not going to remember them. So expecting that child or handing that child off to the aunt or the grandfather or the grandmother when they come in, as much as we want to do that, may not be the most appropriate thing because they're afraid. They have that whole fear of strangers, and that person is a stranger to them. So being aware and preparing grandma and preparing the aunts and uncles and the family members that are geographically in a different location than you are, so they can't see the child as often, preparing them not to maybe be so intrusive and close in the child's space, and let the child warm up to them. That's planning ahead of time, and that's going to lead to less meltdowns that
And
you have to
also,
deal with the children.
Building on that too, I think that parents would also know, or probably have other experiences with that, so they'll know how their child reacts to new people. And some children may not have that. It's necessarily that fear of strangers. So again, it comes back to, I think, parents just kind of, what is your experience in similar situations, and maybe reflecting on those and saying, okay, well, this seemed to work really well for us, and it may not work the same way the next time, but at least you can draw on some experience and say, okay, well, let's prepare for this.
Absolutely.
I think as parents, we prepare for everything.
Try to prepare as much as we can, yes, to eliminate and minimize those meltdowns and
Or
tantrums.
triggers that we know.
Absolutely. Another thing to remember too, a nice tip is to plan some downtime for your child during all of the hustle and bustle and excitement. We all need downtime, and children are no different. So infants, toddlers, preschoolers, they all need downtime. Plan some time into that busy schedule every day to read a book together. Sit down at maybe
quiet activity.
maybe
of any
5 or
sort.
10 minutes, and maybe pull out the blocks if that's the favorite activity. Build some blocks together. Whatever it may be, plan some downtime throughout each and every day of these busy activities that you can spend one-on-one time with your child, engaging them and letting them know that you are there for them and you are responsive to them, even though their routine has changed.
And I think the key part to that would be the full attention. So it's one thing to sit down and maybe pretend like you're playing blocks with your child, but meanwhile you're going through your list of, I need to do this next, I need to do this next.
Exactly.
So I think it would be, just to kind of reiterate on that piece, would be just full attention.
Absolutely. And if you do this and you do plan those downtimes for yourself also, then you're going to minimize those behavioral and emotional outbursts and tantrums because you've allowed the downtime, which is so necessary in our human being.
And even I think for ourselves as adults, just kind of taking that mental step back is just as valuable as we're talking about doing it for our kids. I think adults get caught up in must have, should, do, need,
and it must be perfect. And that leads me to my next little tip. Involve them. Let them be involved in what you're doing. If you're wrapping packages, why can't you allow your 2, 3, 4-year-old to wrap packages with you? No. Maybe you don't want them to, maybe you have a certain way, a certain style that you, that's fine. Give them some other things they can wrap. Give them wrapping paper, give them some tape. Let them sit beside you and mimic you, because that's the age that they want to mimic adults. That's where they are developmentally. So give them those opportunities where they can do that. If you're baking and you're baking cookies, give them a mixing bowl and a little step stool to stand up right beside you, and give them some ingredients that they can mix in a bowl as well. Let them be part of it. They may not be able to stand there for 30 minutes with you and do that. They may only last 3 or 4 minutes and maybe be finished and go off and do something else that they want to do. And that's fine. But let them be involved. Again, you're going to minimize those stressors if you let them be involved. They want to be part of what you're doing. That's where they are developmentally. They need to do what they see you doing.
And in addition to that, like all the things that we're talking about, I mean, that's actually really good hand-eye coordination, that's tactile, that's, you know, so we're not only that, we're kind of building other skills.
Absolutely.
Maybe as an underlying effect
Always.
of that. So that's always something just to keep, I think, in everyday life, is there's very simple things that we as adults do that are built-in learning experiences for these young ones,
Yes.
and they actually relieve some stress for them as well. So.
Yes, absolutely. And everything that children are engaged in doing, play is learning. That's how they learn. So it's wonderful to involve them. And then they feel like they have a sense of accomplishment. And then they've done something with you. And then another thing also is to keep in mind, if you're traveling and you're not hosting at your house and you have to travel a long distance, please be prepared with your young children. You know, take snacks, take drinks, take some games that they can play if they're a little bit older in the car, books that they might like to look at. Make sure if they're young, that you take their favorite blanket that they need to sleep with if you're spending the night somewhere. So we're minimizing those meltdowns and we're minimizing those stressors for the children, which in turn minimizes the stress and allows everyone to have a happier event, whatever it is that you're going to. And then finally, I would say the most important thing is to focus on your own feelings and get your own feelings in check as a parent. It's tough. We have a lot on our shoulders and we have a lot of people depending on us. We have a lot of plans and a lot of parties and a lot of things to get to and events. But as you said a minute ago, step back, check for a minute, take a deep breath, make sure that your feelings are in check and that you're not overreacting. Try to stay as calm as you possibly can, because like I said earlier, this preschool age is the age that they're mimicking adults, and they look to the parents as their first teacher to teach them how to react
And how to handle
and how to respond and how to feel about certain situations. They're not developmentally able to cope socially and emotionally with everything that life throws them, and so they look to parents as their first teacher to see how they react, and they will mimic that. So if we are in check, we have a better opportunity to have our children in check as well, and to have a better holiday for everyone.
And I think that's a great way to kind of just encapsulate everything we've talked about. This is all the tips that we've given have been very parent driven. Like a parent should, a parent needs, plan ahead and we're doing that. So, which in itself could be stressful itself. So I think that so often we forget to tell parents to take care of themselves first. The quality of care you give, if you can't take care of yourself at that point and you're feeling all these different anxiety or fears, those really translate so much to our kids, and they really feel that from this. So we want events and experiences to be positive, but we forget that we're the first person.
Yes.
And so taking care of ourselves is just as important. So I think that Angie and I would both like to wrap up by saying, parents, take care of yourselves. Enjoy the holidays or activities that you're planning, but just remember to take that minute to step back and take care of yourself, and that'll help you take better care of your kiddos. So thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you, Angie, for our talk about stressors and what we can do. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section here on our Facebook Live post. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.